There we go. Hi, everybody. If you are joining me, I hope you're out there somewhere. Thanks so much for joining me on this Friday night. As always, Den is also here and he's helping out with the comment moderation. And you will see comments coming from Friendly Atheist, but he will sign them as himself. I have so many stories I'm excited to share with you. I guess while I'm waiting for a couple people to chime in here, I will say I spent a good part of my day today. Uh, I've posted over the past several years on Twitter, X, whatever it is now, about Christian hate preachers, specifically a small band of them who just say really heinous things in the name of Jesus, especially about gay people. Well, it turns out they were visiting my neck of the woods this weekend. And so for the past month, we were like, would you be up for like getting together and discussing things? And they said yes. And I said yes. And so we got together today. And I thought it would be maybe a 1 hour conversation or something. It ended up being 3 hours. And some of it's infuriating. Some of it, I don't know that I would say we made progress on our differences because I don't think we were going to change each other's minds. But Dan, if you could find that on my Twitter thread, the link is there for people who want to watch it. It's on Rumble, the YouTube for right wingers. And I will air a version of it on my podcast maybe in a week or two for anyone who's interested. It was very long. I sat through it. Maybe you're interested in sitting through it. I don't know. But anyway, we'll get to that. I'm going to go ahead and start out. And again, if you have questions, I will get to them as we are discussing stuff. You can always support the channel by going right here. And I'm going to turn on Instagram too, make sure that's alive. Yeah, you could support the channel by going here. I really appreciate that. So please consider that. And with that, all right, let's start. I wanted to start with a tragic story that is making the rounds today. It happened, I guess, late last night, and it involves 3 Christian missionaries who in Haiti, and apparently all 3 of them were killed in the middle of gang violence, and the details are still coming out slowly. But let me show you this right here because this story involved these 2 people. Their names are Davy Lloyd, and that's Natalie Lloyd. They were recently married. I think he is 23 and she is 21. She is the daughter of a Missouri state representative, Ben Baker, and he is the son of Missionaries who founded this group that works out of Haiti. I guess the guy here grew up in Haiti. He came to the United States for Bible college, and then he decided he wanted to return to Haiti. And while part of me gets, you want to go back to where you spent your childhood, if you know anything about what's happening in Haiti right now, it's extremely dangerous. Um, the president was like assassinated a few years ago. The whole nation has been overtaken by gang violence, and it's not a safe place to go. This is the headline from NBC News right here. Young American couple doing missionary work are killed by gangs in Haiti. Really disturbing news. I want to show you this right here, though. This is the United States State Department website. And if you could see here what it says at the top in red, Haiti, level 4, do not travel. And I know this is a travel advisory as of July of 2023, but the State Department says this very clearly here. Do not travel to Haiti due to kidnapping, crime, civil unrest, and poor healthcare infrastructure. Now, for like nearly a year now, the Department of State has told U.S. government employees, unless they are like emergency members who have to be there, everyone else, get out. Your family members, get out. Country summary. Kidnapping is widespread. Victims regularly include U.S. citizens. You may be held for ransom negotiations, things like that. I don't know how much more clear the US government can make it that you are not supposed to go to Haiti right now. Not for vacation, certainly not for any reason, unless you absolutely have to. And even then, what the hell are you thinking? You should not be going to Haiti right now. So the US government has made this very clear. If you, and certainly if you're a missionary who wants to work in Haiti, you have to be aware of what the situation is on the ground. And just to give you some background on what happened to them, according to Missions in Haiti, which is the group that set all this up, I will show you what they posted here. Here we go. According to Missions in Haiti, this is what they posted last night before they heard about the deaths. This evening, when Davy, Natalie, and the kids were coming out of youth at the church, they were ambushed by a gang of 3 trucks full of guys. Davy was taken to the house, tied up, and beat. The gang then took our trucks and loaded everything up that they wanted and left. Another gang came after to see what was going on and if they could help, so they say. No one understood what they were doing, not sure what took place, but one was shot and killed, and now this gang went into full attack mode. Davy, Natalie, and Jude were in my house at the end of the property. Okay. They're holed up in there. The gangs has shot all of the windows out of the house, continue to shoot. Their lives are in danger. ... Please pray. Gonna be a long night. I mean, that's awful and that's frightening. And of course, just a few hours later, they added one more update, which is this one. Davy, Natalie, and Jude were shot and killed by the gang about 9 o'clock this evening. We're all devastated. And that is devastating. That is horrible news. I mean, none of this, I am not gloating. I am not celebrating this. This is horrible news. This never should have happened. They went to Haiti to bring people peace of mind. I mean, say what you will about missionaries, but they're going in thinking they're going to help people. And they got caught in the crossfire of rival gangs. And the thing that has been bugging me about this story ever since I heard about it is that none of it had to happen. Haiti is one of the most dangerous places in the world right now. And like I showed you, since last July, the US government has been warning Americans against traveling there. Everyone needs to get out of there. The State Department actually said, we probably can't help US citizens who are in trouble. And local police are very ineffective right now. How much more of a warning do you need? Like, if you don't have a good reason to be there, you should not be there. And these missionaries did not have a good reason to be there. In fact, like 2 years ago, I think 2021, there were you may remember this in the news, 17 members of a group called Christian Aid Ministries. They were kidnapped in Haiti and held for ransom. And it took a few months, but I think 5 of them were released because the ransom was paid and the other dozen managed to escape. And that's the only reason they got out of there. Like, it was bad years ago. And these people went there. And these missionaries now, they're just waltzing in there like the past never happened. And I am not saying they deserved to be killed. No, they didn't. My frustration is that they chose to enter a dangerous situation knowing the potential consequences. What happened to them is not unexpected. It was very expected. This was not an accident. Gang violence, when you know it's gang violence, like, yeah, that's not an accident. You know what's going to happen. These were not people in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know what I mean? This is like the inevitable consequence of people joining the leopards eating people's faces party. What did you think was going to happen to you? And it's probably even more tragic because it's not even the first time a missionary has been killed for going somewhere where he wasn't wanted and people warned him he shouldn't go. All of you may remember in 2018, there was a Christian missionary named John Allen Chow who tried to contact an isolated tribe off the coast of India, North Sentinel Island. And he wasn't supposed to go there. Like, the Indian government actually forms a patrol around the island. You can't come within like 3 miles of the island on sea. But John Allen Chow like snuck in there with a group of fishermen who he paid. So they lied. They said they were fishing and the patrols let them through for some reason. And then John Allen Chow like got on a kayak and went to the island. And the next thing we know, when the fishermen came back the next day, his body was being buried because they had shot and killed him. And Chow's name basically became a stand in for faith based hubris and irresponsibility because this guy was so focused on evangelizing at any cost, he neglected to think about what diseases he might be bringing to the island, or why these people might want to remain in isolation, or why he thought throwing some fish at them or waving around a Bible, why any of that would suddenly cause them to change their way of life. And he did it anyway. Did he deserve to die? No. Should anyone be surprised that he was killed? Also, no. And I think the same can be said of the Lloyds. They knowingly stepped into a minefield despite all these experts telling them not to do it. They were so blinded by their faith that they ignored every warning sign. And according to the girl's dad, the state representative, Ben Baker, the two of them became missionaries in Haiti last year in 2023, long after the chaos in Haiti had begun. They did not leave even when the travel advisories went into effect. And after the two of them got married in, I think, June of 2022, they decided to move to Haiti to become missionaries full time. Again, I disagree with their theology. But what they were doing, in some sense, it's like they thought they were doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They were trying to make the world a better place in the only way they seem to know how. You could say that and also say what they did was completely irresponsible. And people in their life circles should have warned them about it. And I am wondering, will anyone in their Christian circles take responsibility for encouraging them to take such a pointless and avoidable risk? Are people in their churches thinking maybe this was a bad idea? I don't know the answer to that, but I hope they're doing some soul searching. I also would like to know why they thought missionaries are even needed. Because guess what? In Haiti, let me show you this right here. This is some statistics about Haiti from the Association of Religion Data Archives. But check this out in the left column. You could see right over there, Haiti is 94% Christian. They don't need the Bible. They're almost all biblical people. Like, I'm not even saying this jokingly. If you wanted to be a missionary trying to convert people, you would have a easier time going to like Vermont than going to Haiti because there's a higher percentage of unchurched people in like New England. So why were they going to a place that's 94% Christian in the middle of a friggin' minefield? Why? How many missionaries have to be sacrificed in perilous parts of the world before churches decide the health and safety of their members matter more than saving people who need so much more than the Bible? Like, unless the Bibles that these people were handing out were coated in Kevlar and had holes inside where you could put food, like it's something out of Shawshank Redemption, the Bibles were not helping these people. The Bibles were not going to protect them from gang violence. And I also want to know when these missionaries are going to realize that faith is not going to protect you from the threats that are staring you directly in your face. The people of Haiti need help. They need safety and they need security and they need a respite from gang violence. And I believe that a new government was just installed very recently, and maybe that'll bring some sense of order to everything. But you know what? None of those people need another Bible. These Christians died. They were murdered because no one in their life circles had the decency to tell them they were wasting their time and doing something utterly foolish. And I'm not even talking about doing missionary work. I'm saying it's foolish to do missionary work in a hot spot in the world where people are dying needlessly. That's my problem here. No one in their life told them this is a bad idea. They just said, well, you're doing something for God, so it's good. Go do it. And I know they were adults. They were 21 and 23. Yeah, they're adults, but they're young. They can make their own decisions. But still, when you're that young, where are the adults in their life, other adults in their life, telling them, I love you. I don't want you to do this. It's a dumb idea. You shouldn't do it. At the very least, I mean, I hope everyone in their life was saying, please don't go there. Stay here. Do missionary work here. It's fine. You can be in the United States and do the thing you want to do. You don't need to go to a place where everyone's just shooting each other constantly. I fear that they were told their entire life the exact opposite. That what they're doing is selfless and courageous and of immense value, and that's a lie. What they were doing was not needed. These people died for no good reason, and I hope people feel bad, not for the general sense of these people, innocent people died, but I hope they feel bad that they maybe had the connections to stop these people from going there, but chose not to. The Lloyds, this young couple who just got married recently, they deserve so much better than the people in their lives who told them that they were doing something good and useful. It makes me mad. I mean, what happened to them is tragic. It's awful. It should not have happened. I can't decide if I'm more upset that it happened because no one deserves to die like that, or if I'm mad that everyone told them this was a good idea or something. I'll stop there for this story. Ugh. If there are any questions, I'll get to those. Otherwise, I will move to a different story that's a lot lighter. What continent is Haiti considered part of? That's a good question that I am struggling to think. I can't decide if it's North America, but it's in the Caribbean. I feel like this is trivia. I should know. Um, but in any case, when there are hotspots in the world, doesn't matter which continent it is, like there are warnings. You are told not to do this stuff. Religions have a history of sending their young into dangerous locations to make the church they represent look good, and they whine about it afterwards when people get killed. Like, you're right. I mean, again, I have a problem with missionaries, period, but at least I get where they're coming from and what they're trying to do. I do not get the arrogance of these churches that are trying, or ministries, like in this case, that are sending people off to a dangerous part of the world. People are telling me it is North America. Thank you. People are sending these people off to dangerous areas for what? To bring three people to Jesus? Like, if you're looking for a body count, go to another state, go to a college campus. You know what I mean? Like, you can probably find victims there. You don't need to sacrifice these young Christians for something they didn't need to do. They didn't, they were not necessary. It's unbelievably frustrating. I'm waiting to hear from the church too. We'll see what the ministry has to say once they have a little time to collect their grief and everything. And to this point, missionaries are the scourge of the earth. Like, I would also argue, maybe to some extent, if I'm trying to play devil's advocate to myself, there is some value in having missionaries go to parts of the world that might be getting neglected if they are helping out in other ways. Not like that crazy woman who decided to set up a hospital even though she had no medical license in Africa, and then they made a docu-series about it. But the people who are like, I'm setting up a school, I'm going to teach at that school, I'm going to make sure these people have food. I could see the long-term value in that. The missionary part that really bothers me is when it's short-term visits, people go for the photo ops, it's the voluntourism sort of thing where they're just going to say they were there and that they built a church and then left, as if that's going to help anybody. Like, yeah, you built a church. Now in Haiti, the gangs have a new place to hide out. Like, you're not helping at that point. So if you're going to go to a dangerous place, at least have the decency to, like, I don't know, build some bathrooms, build a school, help people out in some meaningful way, because teaching them about Jesus is not helping them. But these missionaries probably think Haitians are the wrong variety of Christian. You know what? I think that is true because I said 94% of Haiti is Christian. Well, most of them are Catholic. And I think these types of Christians think Catholics are heretics. So maybe that's it. But like, even so, come on, they're close enough. Leave Haiti. They don't need you there right now. You don't need to be there right now. I, even from their own, even in their own perspective, like, are you seriously telling me using your faith you couldn't do more good for Jesus by staying in the US and I don't know, launching a church, uh, ministering to other people who also don't want you there, but at least they're not going to kill you over it. There's so many other things you could do. I mentioned that I was meeting with those hate preachers earlier. You know what their plan is for this weekend, at least in part? It's to go door to door and try to evangelize to people. And I have thoughts about that. I'm not a fan of that either. But again, they're not going to Haiti to do it. Yeah, thank you for coming. You could subscribe to my newsletter by going to friendlyatheist.com. I'm going to get to a much lighter story. Oh, this is the link. Thanks, Dan. We could put that in the comments too for YouTube if that helps people, which you did. But yeah, that link will take you to the conversation I had with those Christian hate preachers that I met with earlier, and I'll share that on my own channels soon enough. Give me 1 second here to open up a different thing altogether. So yeah, let's talk about. Oh, thanks for becoming a YouTube member there. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jeffrey. Okay, let's talk about Louisiana because they are now on the verge of becoming the first state in the country to require public schools to post a copy of the Ten Commandments in every classroom. Other states have tried this, including Oklahoma. None of them have found a way to make it work while avoiding lawsuits and all that stuff, which is why they haven't passed these laws. But in Louisiana, it's now pretty much as close as it's going to get to becoming a law. And I want to tell you a little bit about this. Let me show you the page on the state's website because a couple things you want to check out here. This is the law. This is the bill. It's HB 71 by Representative Dodie Horton. Back to her in a second. But a couple interesting things on this. It was filed on February 8th. You can see right here, check this part out. The House, the state House passed it 82-19. I mean, Louisiana is a red state, but it ain't that red, which means some Democrats voted with Republicans to pass this bill in the House. All 19 of those nays over there, those were all Democrats. But some Democrats said yes to this as well. It went over to the Senate. They made a change, which we will talk about in a second, but you could see right over here. What does that say? It says it passed by a vote of 30 yays and 8 nays, which once again, all 8 of those nays were Democrats, but some Democrats also voted for it. So now it's going through some procedural motions and it'll get to the governor's desk soon enough. But let's talk about what this bill says and why it's disturbing, okay? Because this is just a mess waiting to happen. Countless people are saying this is a lawsuit that's going to happen, and I don't think anyone is paying attention here. Here's what this website, here's what this bill, rather, says. Let's go through parts of this together. The important bits here is right here. Look at this. The minimum requirement right here is that the Ten Commandments are displayed on a poster or document that is at least 11 inches by 14 inches, which is pretty big size poster right there. And it even says, oh, the text of the Ten Commandments shall be the central focus of the poster. Like no side comments, nothing else, no distractions, whatever. It has to be printed in a large, easily readable font. And then it tells you what the Ten Commandments must have on the poster. And I just want to, let's count, shall we? Because this could be fun. The Ten Commandments. I am thy Lord, thy God. Thou shalt not have other gods before me. Thou shalt not make to thyself any graven images. I'll scroll down here. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor thy father and thy mother, yada, yada, yada. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. I'm at 10. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his cattle, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. By my count, that's 11. I'm just saying. It's telling they did not number the poster because maybe they would have caught this, but there are 11 things on there, which I find hilarious. And that's the text that has to be on here. Um, in addition to all that, it says schools have to basically pay for their own posters, but if they are donated or someone gives cash so you could buy posters, you have to take it. But this poster would be in every classroom in Louisiana public schools. Okay. The same woman who sponsored this, by the way, years ago, she sponsored a Don't Say Gay bill that would have banned any discussion of sexual orientation or gender identity through 12th grade. Through 8th grade. But if you were a teacher of 12th graders and you even mentioned that you're gay, you could be punished as well. That bill didn't go anywhere, but it tells you what kind of Christian this person is. So a couple things about this list. And I've said some of this before when other states tried to do this as well. It is so weird to me that the same people who don't want high schoolers learning about sex or systemic racism or the existence of trans people, they have very specific things. They want kindergartners to know about adultery and their neighbors' maidservants. So that's weird. The list is not going to solve any problems. No potential school shooter has ever plotted out a path of destruction only to reconsider it after realizing the Ten Commandments say, thou shalt not kill. Oh, not. Got it. Like, if students need a sign to remind them not to murder others, they got bigger problems. And you know what would help in that situation? Mental health workers, counselors, social workers, and whatnot. But Louisiana lawmakers right now are considering a different bill to get Christian chaplains in school. So they don't care about mental health either, because they're not trying to hire experts. And that all of that is ignoring the fact that like 4 of those commandments are just flat out useless, since they forbid like false gods, making graven images, taking God's name in vain, not keeping the Sabbath day holy. Like, that has nothing to do with anything. Who cares? And okay, we can get on board with thou shalt not kill, but guess what? In Louisiana right now, guess what they're trying to do? Let's look at this. Oh, check it out. This is an article from the Associated Press recently. Louisiana advances a bill expanding death penalty methods because they want to resume executions. And they just don't have enough drugs to do it the traditional way. I was reading about this a little bit, and what interested me is that in a discussion about abortion and things like that, somebody asked Dodie Horton about the death penalty for rapists. And let me show you what she said. Dodie Horton, who voted against the bill, said she would support the death penalty for rapists. I'd love to hang them from the highest tree if it was in my power to do so. But I cannot condone killing the innocent, by which she was referring to fetuses. And I have no sympathy, obviously, for rapists. I just want to say, even for the worst of the worst or something, here's a woman who's saying, I love the death penalty. In fact, I want to hang them from a tree. Also, she wants to make sure every school has a sign that says, thou shalt not kill. So, I mean, we're talking about total hypocrisy here. So, again, the list has no purpose. I don't know why kindergartners need to be told they should not commit adultery. If I told you that was in a children's book, I'm sure the same woman would want it banned. I'm not sure which teachers in Louisiana are clamoring for the government to force this to happen. Which teachers are lobbying the legislature for the ability to tell kids they're going to burn in hell for all of eternity if they don't follow a set of mostly arbitrary rules? I have no idea. So, as this is happening, one of the interesting things is that fellow Republicans are trying to downplay the religious nature of the Ten Commandments. This is a line I really liked from a Republican. He said, the purpose of the Ten Commandments, the purpose is not solely religious, this senator told the Senate. it's the Ten Commandments' historical significance, which is simply one of many documents that display the history of our country and foundation of our legal system. See, you guys, it's not religious. Now, don't take his God's name in vain, and you better keep the Sabbath day holy. But this gets to the heart of the matter. Like, if they just said you got to put the Ten Commandments up in the classroom, that is obviously illegal. I mean, courts everywhere, including the Supreme Court, have said that's just a government promotion of Christianity. What the Supreme Court has also said is, okay, we'll allow a Ten Commandments monument to go up as long as it's part of a broader project talking about like legal history or the history of the country. So outside the Texas state capitol, yeah, they have a monument of the Ten Commandments, but they also have other monuments to like the Declaration of Independence and whatnot. And so this is what the state Senate decided to do about all this. They decided to make big changes to the bill. And let me show you what they're trying to do. They're trying to really make sure church state separation groups cannot file a lawsuit after this bill is signed into law, which is totally going to happen, by the way. And so they made a bunch of changes to the bill, trying to make sure it's going to pass legal muster. And I want to show you their changes because they're very interesting ones. This is the amendment that was adopted, and it's long. But here's the thing. Check this out. Oh my God, where did it go? They're saying all this stuff. Yeah. It's very boring. Okay, this is the part I wanted to show you. First, they want to add a disclaimer to every poster. You know, like if you ever go to a museum and you see a piece of art and then next to it, there's a little label with like the painter's name and the type of painting, the material that was used, whatnot. This is what they want. They want a disclaimer. The Ten Commandments shall be displayed with a context statement that doesn't mention Jesus. All right. So it says the history of the Ten Commandments in American public education. And I'm not going to read all this, but it says it's a big part of our American public education for 3 centuries. In 1688, there was a book that contained more than 40 questions about the Ten Commandments. None of you know what that book is. None of you have studied it. It's not really that important. But in 1688, when slavery was around, but like the United States definitely was not, this was important. And then part 2 of the disclaimer says the McGuffey readers, the famous textbooks from the 1800s and whatnot, they were also included in there. And they were in textbooks published by Noah Webster, which was used a lot. It included the Ten Commandments too. So you see, everybody, the Ten Commandments were printed in books that were used for centuries long before the United States existed and before our immigration laws allowed people to come from other countries. And when the country was like 99.9% Christian and before anyone knew what evolution was. It turns out people believed in God a lot more, and they were all the same religion, because of course they were. And therefore, I don't know how this helps. Do you get my point? This disclaimer does not change the fact that this is a religious document. The other thing they say in here, which is kind of hilarious, is that they want to make a big change right here. Oh my God, where's the part I wanted to show you? Did I lose it? Oh no, here it is. Look at number 4 right here. A public school may also display the Mayflower Compact, the Declaration of Independence, and the Northwest Ordinance. Basically, 3 historical documents that make reference to God, to show that, you guys, the Ten Commandments are just one of many historical documents. Because again, before they knew what evolution was, they had all these documents that made references to the Lord or our Creator or something like that. But look at the language here. A public school may also display those 3 things. So the Ten Commandments has to go up, but these other 3 documents could, if you feel like it, go up. So the bottom line is the Senate passed that amendment, but ultimately the law says the Ten Commandments, as written in that first part of the bill I showed you, that has to go up on every classroom. And the Senate says, yeah, but we're going to put a little sign on the side that says, you guys, it's not religious. And also, you could put the Declaration of Independence next to it or something. That doesn't change the fact that this is a religious law. This is elevating religion, it's elevating Christianity, and it's going to be illegal if they pass it. Um, After that Senate passed that amendment and then they passed the bill, uh, a coalition of groups were like, you guys, Louisiana, don't make this mistake. Check this out. Look at all these groups right here. The American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU of Louisiana, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, Southern Poverty Law Center. They all issued a joint statement saying the following: the bill is unconstitutional. The state may not require public schools to display the Ten Commandments in classrooms. We all oppose this measure because it violates students' and families' fundamental right to religious freedom. Our public schools are not Sunday schools, and students of all faith or no faith should feel welcome in them. They're basically signaling to Louisiana, hey, Jeff Landry, governor, if you sign this, the lawsuit is coming. So don't make the mistake, because the law is on our side. Even with the crazy right-wing Supreme Court, the law is on our side. And the question now is whether Louisiana is going to go through with it. Here's what has to happen right now. That Senate amendment is going back to the House. They're going to have to, next week, they're going to figure out if they accept the Senate's version of the bill. Let's say the House does, because it was an overwhelming vote the first time with the dumber bill. Then it goes to the governor's signature. And the governor is like a MAGA cultist type of Republican. He just signed like an abortion pill ban today. So he's probably going to sign it too. And then all hell's going to break loose, because there's no way this thing is legal. There's no way it should be legal anyway. So I hope it doesn't go through. But again, it's such a bad idea that a virtually identical version of this bill failed in Oklahoma this year. And a Democrat said at the time the bill was unconstitutional, exclusionary, and dangerous, and they undermine religious freedom in the country. But I will leave you, before I finish this story, I will say there's one silver lining to all this, because you may have noticed in the bill, the requirement said it had to be a certain size, it had to be posted in classrooms, it had to be legible. It did not say the Ten Commandments had to be written in English. And because of that, an activist named Chaz Stevens, who's kind of been a thorn in the side of a lot of right-wing governors and whatnot, he shared with me some mock-ups of Ten Commandments posters he plans to send to Louisiana schools if this bill passes. Let me share some of them with you here. There is, of course, this one right here, which is written in Arabic. I'm sure the Christian nationalists will love it. So there's that one. I like that one. There is also this one, which is in English, but it's mirror image, because the bill didn't say it couldn't be a mirror image. So is it legible? Technically, yes. So I like that one. There's also this one, which does put the Ten Commandments front and center, but it does have a nice little background there. That's cute. That'll be fun. So that's an enjoyable. My favorite one, though, is this one that is legible, but just kind of highlights the important words. Kids will love it. You may notice that the word ass is at the bottom, and technically in the Louisiana bill, it said cattle. So Chaz cannot get away with putting ass on the poster, but he could highlight kill, adultery, and steal, and it would still work. And again, all of this is to say, if he wanted to, he could send these posters to Louisiana schools as donations, and if they have no other options, they could put them up. If any administrator wants to push back against the administration, the governor's office rather, they could put these up, because again, that it still fits the letter of the law. So you could do it. Could be fun. I'll stop there for now. I'll take any questions. I saw someone right here. I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in here really quick, Den. Right here. Maybe they should write it in Klingon. It's funny you say, I know you're joking. Chaz has made posters in Klingon, because in other states, when they forced schools to put up "In God We Trust" posters and things like that, He made a bunch of versions in a bunch of different languages. Klingon was one of them. So it could happen. What do we have here? They probably want the lawsuits with that Supreme Court. They think they can win. I don't disagree necessarily, Olivia. I think you have a point. Maybe they're itching for that fight because they think they have the people on their side. But if there's one thing about this Supreme Court, it's that they have pushed back against dumb cases. Because even like Brett Kavanaugh's like, you cannot send me this case, even though I want to do the thing you want me to do. I can't do it with this. You got to give me some room to twist the facts. And when they're so blatantly pushing Christianity, like this woman in Louisiana is, I I don't even think the Supreme Court can get on board with it. I don't think they want to play that game with something this dumb. As any educator knows that much text on a poster is meaningless, we use anchor charts that support students and reduce useless distractions. This is just a flex by the Christian nationalists. Love Chaz and their designs. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong at all. It's kids are not going to be reading the Ten Commandments unless they're extremely bored and they want something to make fun of, and they're not allowed to use phones in the classroom. If anything, those posters are going to have selective edits made to them by students, I'm sure, at some point or another. Again, it goes back to the fact that these aren't helpful. The kids are going to make fun of them. They're not going to look at them and be like, what's this list? I've never heard of any of these things. Who knew you were supposed to not kill? Yeah, I imagine I saw the Ten Commandments. Oh, you were saying you saw an image of the Ten Commandments that had the second commandment missing. That actually, I posted about this earlier today. There is a man, singular, not a lawmaker, but a guy in Minnesota who wants his personal school district to erect a monument of the Ten Commandments outside the school district. That's even more illegal than what we're talking about here. But in the mock up he presented to the school board, of like, this is what it would look like, it was literally missing commandment number 2. Like it went from commandment 1, commandment 3, and so on. It's like, maybe you should learn how to count before you tell kids what they need to be learning. I don't know. But the like you mentioned here, Kelly, the commandment that was missing was don't worship false idols. And if there's one thing we know about Republicans, it's that they love their false idols. I hope the Satanic Temple tries to get their 7 tenets in the schools too. That's an interesting point to make, but I don't think it would work in this particular case because, again, the law is saying we're allowing the Christian one to go up, but not because it's Christian and not because it says Jesus or anything. It's historical. And by that logic, the Satanic Temple doesn't have an equal rights sort of case to make there. So I don't think this particular solution is going to work. A lawsuit could work because it's illegal what they're trying to do, but I don't think the Satanic Temple could get on board with this particular. They may try, but I don't think it would work. It would work. I really don't understand why some people want to move backwards. Man, I don't live in the South either. I don't know why. It's sad. And as they said in this Ten Commandments thing, it's not like they want to move backwards to like 1970. They want to move backwards to like 1680s when all good things happen for everyone. I think the Bill of Rights has more business being on every classroom wall than the Ten Commandments. Fair point. But these people do not care about rights of any sort. Certainly not for people they despise. Women, people of color, gay people, like, doesn't matter. They don't like rights. They don't want kids to learn about the rights they have. All right. Uh, thank you, Den, for that. I'm going to keep going to a different story here. Oh, I enjoyed this one. So get this. A public school in Alabama recently invited a preacher to just come speak to kids about Jesus and lead them in prayer. And you know why I know that? It's because the preacher bragged about it on Facebook. And let me show you what he said here. Here we go. This is John Eklund. He's the guy on the left in the poster below here, in the picture below here. And look at what he says. I told Principal Fuller at Stanhope Elmore High School that I was amazed at his willingness to let us come in and talk about Jesus and recovery in a large public high school. And his response, I've been doing this for 26 years. If I'm going to get in trouble, it might as well be for Jesus. Like, not only are you saying, I can't believe this public school let me preach to the kids, you're literally saying, look, this principal in the picture with me, he's like, yeah, I know it's wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like, that's like an arsonist walking around holding the match and waving it in everyone's faces. So this all happened at Stanhope Elmore High School. Uh, Again, this is in Alabama. And what happened is on April 12th, that guy, John Eklund, he was the speaker at what is believed to be a mandatory assembly about mental health. And this guy is a licensed clinical social worker, so fine. Maybe he could have talked to the kids about how to deal with their mental health struggles in a way that was universal. But apparently, as he said, he used the opportunity to proselytize and then led students in a group prayer. And again, if you're asking, well, did he go rogue? Did the school know he was going to do all this? According to his Facebook post, the principal knew exactly what he was doing, which is weird. Why would you say that out loud? And also, I want to show you in that Facebook post, he didn't just post a picture of him and the principal. He has pictures of the group prayer. So he's giving away what happened. Again, this is not a Christian event before school or after school. As far as we know, this is a mandatory during the school day assembly where this happens. And that is messed up. So that's one thing. So why did they invite this guy? Even though he's a social worker, a licensed clinical social worker, there are a bunch of them. Any one of them could do a good job of explaining dealing with mental health concerns and talking about it. Why did they choose this guy? And the reason, I think, is because he runs a ministry. It's called Recovery Alive. And on the website for Recovery Alive, you could see what it says here. Recovery Alive prioritizes the power of Jesus through the Holy Spirit to raise hope from the dead. Recovery Alive is an organic living program representing a living God. I don't know what any of that mumbo jumbo means, but this guy is very clear that he runs a ministry that prioritizes Jesus over like making sure you get better. You know what I mean? So, but that's why this guy was invited, which is messed up. If he makes clear Christianity is at the center of what he does, why is the school inviting him? Because in no sane world is Jesus a solution to the very real problems that students are facing today. And look, religion may be a way for some kids and adults to cope with their problems, but it is definitely not the way for all people to cope with their problems. And that's why they needed to hire someone who actually knows how to deal with mental health issues for everybody. Here's another problem with this dude. He didn't just make one stop that day. This is a post from Holtville High School, also in the same district. And that's a picture of John Eklund on the left. And look what they say on April 11th. Thank you to John Eklund, founder and CEO of Recovery Alive, for speaking to our students today during our assembly. The Young and Alive group, which is a weird name for a group, will start meetings next Wednesday, whatever. So this guy appeared at a different high school. And I know that high school did not say he preached to the kids or anything, but if I go back to what Eklund posted in his other Facebook post, look at this after he talks about the principal. This morning, during 2 assemblies, hundreds of teenagers flooded Central Court to receive prayer for struggles of value and worth. So he's saying, I did 2 assemblies today, not just this one at this school. And all these kids came to the court to receive prayer. That is messed up. And he even says, thanks for breathing life into the vision of bringing the Christ-centered 12 steps into local public high schools. He's bragging about breaking the law. And all these people are apparently letting him do it, which is messed up. So the Freedom from Religion Foundation has now written a letter to the school district saying, what the hell is going on here? This is what they wrote a couple of weeks ago or something. It is unconstitutional to take away instructional time from students to expose them to religious proselytizing. FFRF attorney Chris Line writes, it is well settled that public schools may not show favoritism towards or coerce belief or participation in religion. And all of that is great. And it turns out that recently the school district wrote them back. Dear Mr. Line, this is May 15th, and I want to jump down right here. A couple things here. As you are probably, I can't highlight, but you could see it. As you're probably aware, Mr. Eklund is a licensed clinical social worker and regularly works as a therapist for teenagers. They're basically saying he's not a preacher. He's a regular guy who's doing a secular job, except we saw his website. We know what he does. We know what he brags about. So that doesn't help. Next thing, student support assemblies of this nature are optional for attendance and voluntary for participation. And he says here, this is the superintendent, it says the assembly was not mandatory. The students who attended were not coerced to attend and had the option not to participate. After conferring with the staff of the school, only one student asked to sit elsewhere during the assembly, and that student was allowed to do so. No one else complained to us. But again, I'll get to what FFRF responds to this in a second. You cannot put the burden of responsibility on students to tell these adults, I don't want to go to this assembly. I want to separate myself from my friends. I don't want to listen to this. Like, that is unfair to ask of students of any age. This letter also says right here, second, the assembly was not a religious assembly. We did other stuff, blah, blah, blah. Based on feedback from the school, the mental health content appeared to be well received by most of the students who attended the program. Then why is the speaker bragging about praying and bringing people to Jesus on his personal Facebook page, right? And then the last bit here. Following the assembly, there was one student complaint indicating that the student did not know attendance was optional. And after receiving this concern, the school administration investigated it. We won't let it happen again, whatever. Basically saying everything you're accusing us of, it never happened. So now FFRF is responding to this letter because they're saying, stop gaslighting us. Here's what FFRF says now. FFRF's complainants, the people who spoke to FFRF, including two parents, said Eklund told students that Jesus Christ set him on his path of redemption and he will save them too. So it was religious. He reportedly offered students money to come down and be prayed over. That's new information. And he also told students to attend church and passed out pamphlets advertising a church. And what about this idea that the school faculty will continue to be reminded of students' rights? Well, guess what? We have concerns that the district will allow evangelists like Eklund to target a captive audience of students in the future. We are calling on the district to stop gaslighting the situation and adopt clear policy disallowing religious assemblies masquerading as secular seminars. Like, yeah, again, the district can say whatever it wants, but the guy who spoke is very clear that he used it as a chance to preach. And if you can't listen to what that guy is saying, we have the screenshots. We know what he said. How come we're not allowed to listen to him explain what happened? Because what that guy, Eklund, is saying and what the school district is saying, these are two very different stories. And it seems like they can't figure out which truth they want to run with. So either one of them is lying or they're both lying or something, but that is messed up. We'll see what happens. We'll see if there's a lawsuit. We'll see if anything gets fixed. But hey, students, if you're at an assembly and someone is doing a religious presentation at your public school, that's a great time to get out your phone and start recording. And if you need to hide your phone so you're only recording audio, do that. It would help a lot. Just saying. All right, gonna stop there for this one. What questions do we have? The word you used about missionaries in the previous story is perfect here also. Hubris. No kidding. Eklund, that preacher counselor dude, is so confident he's not going to get in trouble and that the district's not going to get in trouble. He's openly broadcasting what he did and the fact that it was illegal and all that stuff. Like he's so cocky about what he got away with and he's proud of it. It's very annoying. Like that's why he should be punished for it. Why the school should be punished for it. Was attendance at the assembly mandatory? Like we said, the school says no. FFRF says, according to the parents we spoke to, everyone thought it was mandatory. And again, if you're not very clear that something is optional, I don't think it's fair to make students decide whether or not they want to go to an assembly. It depends on what the alternatives are if you don't go to the assembly. What type of assembly is it? What if your friends are going? Like, that's the sort of peer pressure you shouldn't put on kids. If you want to do a religious assembly, do it outside the school. Just tell kids, hey, we have a religious message to deal with mental health. It's sponsored by the church. The church is advertising it on their website. All ages are welcome. It's at 7 p.m. Just do that. The school doesn't need to be involved. By the way, religion, if anything, contributes to mental health problems. So, like, don't act like Jesus is the solution here. Because the students who disagree are obviously very free to vocally disagree and not be shamed for it. Again, yeah, don't put the pressure on them to have to do the right thing when it's the adult's job to do the right thing. I just filed a complaint with the state ethics board on therapists for having one trying to preach Christian moral superiority will cure me. Yikes. And then trying to convert me after she was fired. Logan, I don't know what state you're in, but one, I hope you're doing better. Two, I hope you found a better therapist. And three, I would love to personally hear what the state ethics board says to you in response. Email me if you get a response from them. I'd be very curious. I went to a therapist who was concerned that I was an atheist. That was my first and last visit with him. There is a website, by the way. I don't know, Den, maybe you could check this for me. Secular therapists. And that is a database of qualified therapists all over the country who can actually help you in whatever ways you need. But they're not going to shame you for being an atheist, and they're not going to tell you God is part of the solution. They're actually going to, do what therapists do and help you. So Secular Therapists is the project's name. That's the database. Secular Therapy Project is the group's name. Thanks, Susan. And Den will get up the website in just a little bit here. Soon enough. While he's looking for that, give me 1 second to pull up the next little bit here and close out 87 other tabs. Oh, my life becomes so much easier when all these tabs close. Oh, that felt great. Okay. If any of you can find the Secular Therapy Project website, we'll find that. We'll get that up here. But just Google Secular Therapy Project. Okay, we'll find it in the next break. I'm going to move on to this story coming up here. Okay, it's kind of a follow-up, but it's a totally different story. Do you all remember a couple of weeks ago, there was a church in Missouri, James River Church, and they sponsored a men's conference. And I made a video about it. We'll link to it at some point below or something. But like at this men's conference, the big controversy, besides the fact that it was one of those weird manly men's conferences, the thing that happened is that it opened up. I'm going to start over, actually. Den, let's get this up. That's the website, seculartherapy.org, if you're looking for a secular counselor. Okay, so a few weeks ago, I talked about this on this show, but James River Church in Missouri held a manly men conference, and it opened up with an acrobat. And the acrobat was like a sword swallower who's appeared on like America's Got Talent. And like the big finale of his performance is that he takes off his shirt. So you see he's not hiding anything. He swallows a sword and he like climbs up a pole, flips around on it, and then seems to fall head first into the ground with the sword like clearly pointing into his mouth. But he stops at the last second and he's safe. And it's amazing. And that's the show. And I don't know why that's the opening to a church conference, but that's what happened. And after that, Mark Driscoll, the abusive Christian pastor who for some reason was invited to speak at this conference, he spoke and he basically compared that to a stripper show and he called out the conference organizer, and he's like, why are we doing this show? It's seductive. And it was not a seductive sex show. It was an acrobat. It's like a magician showing you, look, I'm not hiding anything up my sleeves, see? And then Mark Driscoll's like, I see your bare arms. So as Mark Driscoll was criticizing that performance, the head of the church that's sponsoring the event, John Lindell, kind of yells out from the crowd, like, you're out of line, Mark, you're done. And Mark Driscoll, after a couple of minutes, just walks backstage, right? So that's what happened at this conference. And like the next day, the two guys show up on stage and try to reconcile, but it got worse. They like started texting each other afterwards, and they're going after each other's family, or I don't know what happened, but they're still bickering because they're very petty, thin-skinned people. Okay, I made a video about that weeks ago. You can go watch that video. The reason I bring this up is for a different reason, because after Mark Driscoll was kicked off stage, a member of James River Church, a dyed-in-the-wool, like hardcore Christian member of the church, her name is Rahela Pedian. I don't know how to pronounce it, but there you go, Rahela. She made a Facebook post where she was very upset about what she heard happened over the weekend. I don't think she attended the men's conference because it's for manly men and not for, women folk. She has a place to be in the kitchen, I'm told, by the church. But she posted a 2,000 word thing on Facebook. And I'm just going to scroll through it for a second here, because check out this post. I highlighted a couple things here, but like, it's just a giant block of text. It's very tough to read, which is why I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to highlight a couple things. But basically, what this member of the church said is that Mark Driscoll, should not have been kicked off stage. John Lindell should not have yelled at him from the audience. You should have let Mark Driscoll speak. And this is what she writes in her post, okay? If Mark would have been allowed to explain himself and continue his sermon, I have no doubt in my heart that two things would have happened. This entire division and real-life desperate house husbands drama, very nice phrase right there, would never have happened. Could Mark have had the opportunity to preach on the spirit of Jezebel and fully explain what this is and how it impacts every household in the country? Things would have shifted greatly. Like, honey, you very much overestimate how far Mark Driscoll's sermons against women are going to go anymore. Okay. But number two, we may have had the opportunity to see the largest revival, repentance, and healing and restoration of not just 576 men who attended the conference, but possibly 10,000 plus men, I guess live streaming, who would have healed from pornography, sexual sin, adultery, cheating, emotional and psychological strongholds, and other addictions. So you guys, if you would have just let Mark Driscoll speak, everyone online would stop watching porn. That's how it works, apparently, in her mind. Listen, I think everything she just said is delusional, but okay, that she's not writing for me. I'm not her target audience. But the other thing she did in this long block of text is she also kind of criticized her own pastor, John Lindell, for yelling at Mark Driscoll and not handling the subsequent drama in a responsible way. Okay. So this is what she says later in the same post. I mean, if, I'm sorry, this is what Lindell said. Anything would have been good to hear, some form of remorse. The message presented last night, she's referring to an apology John Lindell made at their church later in the week. I'm not so sure it has brought peace or unity to the church. In fact, it left many, many individuals at a loss of words and heavy burdened. Did pride get in the way of John? There is no doubt about that. And kudos to her, because she's talking about her own pastor, saying what he did in handling the aftermath, it's not helping. He's too arrogant. He's not interested in bringing peace or unity to everybody, which is good. And by the way, in that same post, she did not spare the church either. She went after her own church, because look at this. I attend James. Oh, I should have highlighted a sentence back because John accused Mark of profiting under the most heartbreaking circumstances and gaining followers, generating revenue for the sake of his ministry, profiting off the men's conference for his own personal gain and agenda. Basically, John Lindell said, Mark Driscoll, you're talking about that acrobat dude for clicks and likes and money and things like that, not because you're spiritually obligated to say something. What's this woman saying? I attend James River Church every Wednesday and every Sunday. In the last year, I can tell you I may have been absent 3 to 4 times from a service. I love God. I love church. I love community. But one thing I know for certain, the last 2 years, we've seen a great shift from the Holy One to fame, to YouTube followers, to market the church, not only locally, but to the depths of international agenda, to increase traffickers online. I'm pretty sure she means traffic, but that is a funny word for her to use. To open the online campus, to bless the church more and more financially. Speaking of 20 to 25 million in revenue growth, to share, click, tell your testimony, click, 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 write a book, sell a book, whatever, whatever, whatever. What agenda has our leadership had in the last few years far greater than ever before? Financial growth and fame, being known, cookies trafficked online more and more. I kind of like this woman. She's wrong about the theology up and down, but like she's basically saying you can't accuse Mark Driscoll of trying to use this conference for clicks and money when our church is all about clicks and money. And by the way, if you want to know what else this church does for clicks or money, last year I wrote about this and it got some attention. Someone at this church argued, they said in a video that was played by the church, that she lost 3 of her toes and they miraculously grew back. This woman said, God helped regrow my 3 toes. And then John Lindell, the pastor at this church, is like, see, everyone, miracles happen. And of course, there's no evidence that her toes grew back. So they're very much into just lie. Doesn't matter. As long as we get clicks and money, it's all good. So this woman posts all of this in this giant long block of text. And here's the amazing thing. She is a member of the church. She's a true believer. And she very clearly is saying, I don't appreciate how our church is handling this whole situation. So it turns out she posted that right after the men's conference. But like after a week and a half of that post, she posts another update. And that first post I showed you was like 2,000 words long. This next one is 4,300 words long. It's so much bigger. She wrote another block of text. But what she basically said is that she attends a campus. It's a mega church, so they have like little smaller campuses. She attends one of the satellite churches. She attends like the North Campus. And if I go to their website, the pastors who run this campus of James River Church are Josh and Laura Longenecker, husband and wife team that runs this campus. And this woman, Rahela, she said that after that post was up for like a week, I get contacted by these 2 people, even though they've never reached out to me as long as they've known me. She actually said between April 20th and May 1st, Laura called, texted, or messaged me on Facebook Messenger a total of 16 times, basically saying, we got to talk, we got to talk, we got to talk. So on May 1st, all 3 of them get in a room together to have a talk. And I'm going to show you, oh my God, I'm going to show you the second block of text here from May 16th. I'm just going to scroll down. Giant block of text. It brings to mind that like meme that says, I ain't going to read all that, but congratulations to you, or I'm sorry, whatever it is. I'm not going to read all that, which is, by the way, what half the comments say too. But I read all that. And there's some very interesting things she says in here, okay? Because she says after like 2 weeks of these pastors trying to get in contact with me, and she meets with them in person, what do they say to her? Well, among other things, Josh, the husband here, he says there are two major things here. The post is bringing disunity to the body of Christ, as if she is harming Christianity by sharing and airing our dirty laundry. And second, if you are attending James River, our main leader and pastor is John Lindell, and we must submit to his leadership. He has authority over the church, and as members, we are to submit to his leading and leadership. That is cult mentality right there. What the hell? Like, how dare you criticize dear leader? This guy whose, I don't know, skill is lying about miracles and yelling to people on stage that he never should have invited in the first place. You can't criticize that guy. He is our leader. What leader do you, how crappy of a leader do you have to be if no one's allowed to criticize you? So it's a cult, right? So Josh is saying, not only have you hurt Christianity, you're not obeying to the church. You're not obeying the church leader, and you're a woman. How dare you? So he says all that, which is hilarious. She's not being a good sheep. So she says to him, well, I don't worship men in general, like you or John Lindell or Mark Driscoll. I worship Jesus, she says. But then she says to them, the husband and wife team, I'll think about it. I will, sit down with my Bible and let it osmose through me. And if it is not aligning with biblical principles, I will take down my post. She tells them that. The meeting is over. And like a week and a half later, guess what? I guess the spirit never moved her because she didn't remove the post. And guess what happened after that? By the way, not only did she feel like what she said was okay, she actually shared on Facebook this image, which is her notes from May 1st of her meeting with Josh and Laura. Just like contemporary notes, because she knows they're going to gaslight her later on. So she took notes in person. So anyway, a week and a half afterwards, on May 11th, Josh Longenecker gets in touch with her again and says, we have to talk. Come here. We got to talk now. Get over here. And so she goes back to talk to him. And here's what happens at meeting number 2. Let's see this. Josh stated that because you have not taken your post down, the executive leadership has recommended that you not attend services. You have continued to bring disunity to the body of Christ again, and continued to state again the executive leadership. In that moment, I asked, do you recall our meeting on Wednesday? I committed to pray over it and read it and see if it aligns with the word of God. Josh interrupted me and said, Rahela, you know what we spoke. I said, yes, but you never asked me to take the post down. Josh said he's not able to expand on this any further. And I responded, what executive leadership? Josh said, I was given an order from executive leadership. And I called to let you know it's been a week and your post is still up. These people. Okay, to summarize, Josh told her, you should think about taking down your post. The woman says, I'm going to pray about it and I'll decide what happens later. And then she thinks about it and says, I'm not taking it down. And then a week and a half later, this pastor guy, Josh, is like, you didn't take down your post. And she says, I didn't say I was going to take it down. And you didn't tell me to take it down. I said I would think about it. And the pastor is saying, I winked at you, so you should have taken it down. And she says, I'm not. And then he says, the executive leadership said, take it down. She's like, who the hell is executive leadership? And he's like, you heard me. And now they're just going back and forth. Hilarious, because this is a cult. And then goes on to say, well, I'm not a criminal. I don't have a warrant. I don't have a trespassing notice. And I have children who attend the service and have invited friends for Mother's Day. Basically, she says to the pastor, I'm showing up to church on Sunday. Good luck getting rid of me. I'm a part of this church. I invited my friends to this church, which, by the way, this is exactly what you want. If you're a church leader, you want someone so dedicated, they're coming every week and bringing their friends. And she's now using that as a threat. Like, oh, you're going to kick me out? Yeah, right. No, I'm showing up to church. How dare you? I want to discuss with my family these demands and let us decide what our next steps are going to be. I love this woman. She's wrong about everything, but I appreciate what she's doing here. So the question now is what's going to happen on Mother's Day, which is a Sunday, which is when she shows up to church, right? So guess what happens when she goes to church? Because this is when shit hits the fan again. Uh, this is wild. She shows up on Sunday before one of their services, and who does she see when she enters? It's a guy who runs the security team at the church. Look what she says. Justin Neal, the North Campus's head security team lead, a few moments after he makes eye contact with her, he began to walk toward me and approached me. He placed his arm on my back and cornered me to the signage and whispered, Rahela, you need to leave right now. I said, for what purpose? He said, is there something I have done wrong? Is there a reason? Oh, Justin replied, um, I don't know what he replied, but basically, why can't I attend church? And then that moment, another security team member approaches my children and I in the lobby. One security team member was paged to come from the sanctuary. Like, this is all hands on deck. Everyone on the security team, get over here. What's the problem? This woman wants to come to church. And everybody crowds around her. At that moment, my 4-year-old son got scared and began to cry. Justin placed his arm again on my left arm shoulder area and pushed me backwards towards the door. By the way, what the hell are you guys doing? And he began to state, I don't want to arrest you in front of your kids. You need to leave now. I stated, excuse me? Please tell me what this is about. He says, you know what the executive leadership asked. They asked you to take your post down. Everyone's like, executive leadership said you have to go. No one knows who's executive leadership. What the hell? So I asked my conversations recorded, she says, I asked my oldest daughter to go with her siblings out to the car and wait for me. And Justin signals 2 local sheriffs to approach me. Like, now it's not the church security, like the amateur team. They're bringing in the real sheriffs, and they take her outside to speak. And I didn't know one of them, he was new, but the other guy she knew. His name is Stan. He's the cop. And she's like, hey, Stan the cop, what's going on? Is there a reason I'm not allowed to be at church? Stan says he knows who I am. He's been a friend to me for years. He knows my family. But Rahela, I don't want to arrest you here. I respond, what are you doing? Is this a public entity or a public church gathering? He's like, it's private property and the church is allowed to ban members. So, like, you gotta go. So at this point, she's like, fine, I'm gonna go, cop Stan. I guess I'll listen to the executive team and leave. But later on, where's the last little bit here I wanted to show you? I'm gonna find it. So she starts to leave. But at some point, they say to her, listen, Rahela, you need to go, but your kids can stay. The audacity of these people. They're like, your kids can stay. They're cool. But you're rebellious and a Jezebel. You need to leave. Here's my favorite part of all of this. She says, at that moment, when they said your kids can stay, but you got to go, in that moment, my oldest daughter, Val, shared with the youth pastors, my mom is the only parent in my life present. She is our mom. It's Mother's Day. She has taught us all faithfully about Jesus and church. How could you ask her to leave for not removing a post? Oh, but the church doors are open to drug addicts and alcohol addicts to come rehab and attend living free classes. How can you ask us to attend but not welcome my mother because of a public post she made with public information our pastor asked us to share? Which, by the way, what she's referring to is John Lindell said, if you ever have a problem with church leadership, you talk to me privately. And only if church leader is not listening to you, then you got to tell the church. You tell the world what's going on. She's like, that's what I did. I made my post on Facebook, and now they're kicking her out because of it. So good for the child. And then look at this. On Mother's Day, this is Rahela again saying, they're asking me to leave on Mother's Day. And she says, in my post, I talked about the money and how our church is obsessed with money. On Mother's Day, did you know it is the 3rd largest attended service in the year after like Christmas and Easter? What did our pastor preach On Mother's Day, he preached about tithing. Do we all not know how tithing works? Or was it to seize another opportunity to bank on the third largest attended service and prey on the emotions of families, mothers, visitors, and bring in the cash cow flow on Mother's Day? This is sickening. Again, I love this woman. She's like, oh, you're going to kick me out? Well, guess what? You're also greedy at this church. What are you going to talk about on Mother's Day? Love? No, you're talking about, you guys, you got to give us money. So this woman posts this 4,300 word tirade on Facebook. She says she recorded everything. And by the way, she says on the left side here, you could see she has supposedly all these recordings saved to her phone, which is hilarious. She says she's going to post them on YouTube. I will tell you, I looked. I have not seen them yet on YouTube, so I hope she posts them. It would be lovely if she did. But the bottom line is this church kicked out a woman on Mother's Day. Why? Because she criticized their church for focusing on the wrong things and treating things the wrong way. And look, they do have a right to kick out members. I'm not saying this is a legal issue. The church is a private organization. They can decide their own membership. But it is telling why they're kicking this woman out. It's not because she did anything wrong. It's because she criticized the dear leader. Like, that is how cults operate. And also apparently mega churches with weak pastors with very thin skin. So she left. And after all of this, she did say to her friends in that post, like, if you're wondering where I am after 18 years of attending this church, she said, I did not abandon you. I did not leave you. I did not ignore you. Our home is open to all of you. But she says, but I'm not allowed to come back to church anymore. And if there's one silver lining to all of this, I saw underneath that 4,000 word post a lot of responses that said some things like this. We will never return to James River Church after this situation. This is sickening and disheartening, especially to happen on Mother's Day and in front of your children over a post. I occasionally go to James River, but I can no longer support them. Sorry you had to deal with this. Thank you for your courage to speak out. I'm a single mom, have attended James River Church for the past 3 to 4 years. I made the decision to attend elsewhere shortly after John Lindell talked at that Wednesday night service. And the last one here, I'm heartbroken to watch how the situation has played out. I attended James River for 16 years. People would often compare it to a cult. I never believed them, always stood by my church. But this entire situation has done nothing but scream cult. I've been going there for 5 years, barely missed a week, but the men's conference made me sick and I can't get over it. Like, this is the power of calling out the church. I don't know what's going to happen to this woman. I genuinely do feel sad for her that she found a home in this church and she felt comfortable in this church. And this church basically said, you did the one thing you're not allowed to do. Oh, no, not sinning. It's you criticized the guy whose picture is on the wall. Because it's like Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and God, and then John Lindell right above everybody else. And you criticize that guy, and how dare you? And again, she's wrong about like everything. She's taken Mark Driscoll's side, which is messed up, and all. Like, I'm not saying she's right about all this stuff, but it's funny's the wrong word. I feel bad for her, but it's kind of funny that she criticized the church, and now they went to DEFCON 5 or whatever to kick her out before she infects the rest of the church. I wish her well. I hope she's okay. Gonna pause there while we look at other questions, and then I'll move on here. Thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Thank you. Mark Driscoll was upset because the show felt gay. Yeah, Mark Driscoll was mad at that acrobat because, one, he climbed a pole as part of an acrobatic routine. Mark Driscoll said that's a stripper pole. The guy wasn't wearing a shirt, which, like I said, that's like a magician rolling up his sleeves. You show, I'm not hiding anything here. That's why the guy takes off his shirt. Also, if I had that guy's body, I would never wear a shirt. But that's why the guy wasn't wearing a shirt. So you could see, I really am swallowing this sword. And Mark Driscoll's like, he's stripping. It's his Jezebel-like. So yeah, Mark Driscoll was like, this is gay. Why would you have something gay at a men's conference? Bring on the monster truck so we can rip up phone books and everything. Mark Driscoll thinks everything is gay for what it's worth. Is John Lindell related to crackhead Mike Lindell? I've looked into this, and I'm pretty sure the answer is no. They're related in spirit, but not biologically, I do not think. Always a good idea to make notes during private meetings. Makes it harder to shift the narrative. No kidding. And even better, to take recordings of your meeting with church leaders. If you haven't done this, by the way, Jehovah's Witnesses sometimes have secret meetings, like with the elders, if you've done something really bad and they're thinking about disfellowshipping you. And over the past few years, a handful of Jehovah's Witnesses have secretly recorded those meetings and posted them on Facebook, and they're fascinating to watch. So if you're interested in what that looks like when a cult tries to tell you, like, we're thinking about kicking you out and your family will never be able to talk to you again, check out those Jehovah's Witness disfellowshipping elder meeting videos. The story has layers like a rotten onion in a trash can fire on a runway train in a post-apocalyptic horror film being shown in a condemned theater. Nicely done. I love it. I'm wondering if all those layers are gone. Maybe we're not done yet. Please tell me the body cam will show up on the Public Freakout YouTube channels. Robin, oh my God, I'm waiting for it. I hope some of these sheriffs had body cam video. I don't know if that will be posted anywhere. I don't care about what the cops are doing. I want to see the woman's reaction to these cops saying, like, you're coming to church? How dare you? Get out. This is a church. These people. Yeah, give me your clicks and money, not John Lindell. Thank you. I appreciate that. I got a couple more stories here, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, I was debating whether I wanted to talk about this next one because I've talked about this to some extent in the past, but it made headlines this week, and maybe you saw it, and I want to get in front of it. I'm going to try to I told Den about this earlier. Like, your job, Den, is to make me shut the hell up during this particular story because I don't want to go on. But I'm going to try to summarize this story. So, several years ago, the U.S. State Department does something it always does. They want to prioritize religious freedom and democracy around the world. As a country, we feel that protecting religious freedom is a good thing to promote. And like democracy around the world is a good thing to promote. And so we have projects to try to expand that around the world. And so one of those things when it comes to religious freedom is that our government offers grant money to organizations to say, like, we want to help these religious minorities in a certain part of the world, not to promote their religion, but we want to help them have religious freedom. And we want to help groups that work on these issues help them do it. And so they say, hey, we're offering $100,000 to achieve these goals. And if your group wants to help us, you can apply for those grants. And I think that's a wonderful idea, right? So a few years ago, they actually posted this right here. I'm going to show this because this is fascinating. This is from 2021 right here. And basically, this says they're interested in promoting and defending religious freedom, inclusive of atheist, humanist, non-practicing, and non-affiliated individuals. April of 2021. And I'm going to summarize this for the sake of time. Basically, they said there are parts of the world like Nepal, Sri Lanka, South Asia, where openly atheist people are targeted for their non-belief. You may remember that in Bangladesh a few years ago, openly atheist writers, publishers, they were literally targeted and assassinated, murdered. Horrible stuff. So the State Department said, we're offering $500,000, whether that's for one project or two, to help these people in these countries. Now, what would they do with that money if they got it? Well, what the State Department said is we could help with legal rights advocacy to protect non-theistic people. We could help with journalism to promote dialogue between religious, non-religious people. We could help you increase the capacity to document abuses of religious freedom. To be clear, they're not saying we want to help you spread atheism. We want to help you protect the rights of atheists. And it's not just atheists, because grants like that they do for Muslims and Christians and other religious minorities too. Nothing weird about that. Okay? That's what they offered. And as far as I could tell, I did not know who got the money. Like that grant application, the window closed to apply for the grant. I was very curious who received the money. At the time, I did not know the answer. And that was it. Like, even if you disagree with the US government on a lot of things, no matter which administration is in power, I think these are projects you ought to support because it's good that our taxpayer money is going toward projects like that. I think that's a good place to put money when it comes to the State Department. You know what I mean? But about a year and a half later, June of 2022, Republicans apparently found out this was going on. And they were like, what? Taxpayer dollars are being used to support atheists in other countries? It's very easy to spin that into a story of the Biden administration is promoting atheism in other countries using American dollars. And that is what they did. So, again, I made a video about this a while back, but Republicans basically put out press releases saying the Biden administration is trying to promote atheism worldwide, which they are not doing. I promise you, the Biden administration is not an ally of the atheist community. They could be worse, mind you. They're fine, but they're not on our side trying to help us. You know what I mean? And they tried to make this a big deal. They wrote a letter. Republicans wrote a letter to Joe Biden and Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying, we're very concerned the State Department is using this money to support atheism. How dare you support atheism like this? That's like giving money to promote Christianity in China. That's something they wrote in their letter. And guess what? The State Department has, in fact, supported Christians in China because Christians in China are persecuted and they deserve help. So, like, the Republicans had no idea what they're talking about, but they're very, very mad. And it worked. Like, they got the headlines they wanted in right-wing media. Okay. I'm going to skip over some details here, but they got the headlines they wanted. The questions I was still struggling to figure out at that point, this is about a year ago now. Who got the money? Which groups got the grant money? How much did they get of the $500,000? And what would the groups be doing with that money? I want those answers, not just as a taxpayer, but as an atheist. I'm very curious. I did file an open records request with the State Department as soon as I heard about the grant. It's been 2 years. I still have not gotten a response, but I do have some answers for you. I have other methods. But basically, when the State Department would not give them the responses they wanted, the Republicans weaponized all this. They sent follow-up letters saying, yeah, you responded to us, but we didn't get the answer we wanted. Our constituents are very upset about this. They're not. That's a lie. But they just kept perpetuating this lie that the Biden administration is promoting atheism. This goes on for a while. At some point, Mike McCall, a representative from Texas who chairs the House Foreign Affairs Committee, which is basically a very high-ranking Republican, he jumps on board this ship and he says the State Department is promoting a secular agenda. And he's perpetuating these lies as well. And he wants answers, and they hold committee hearings and all of this. And the thing is, they finally got a response last August. Last August, the Republicans who were mad about this, they sent out a press release or wrote a letter, and they implied that the State Department did respond to them and gave them the answers they wanted. But that's not good enough because think about it. If you're a Republican, the last thing you want are answers to your questions because you only get media attention for raising the questions. Like, did Hunter Biden do something bad? And then everyone responds like, no, nothing illegal has happened. And they're like, shut up. We're still raising questions. Everyone pay attention. Fox News, put us on. Let us talk about this. So they got answers. But last August, Mike McCall, along with Chris Smith and Brian Mast, 3 high-ranking Republicans, they said the State Department is stonewalling us. And in their letter saying, State Department, you're not doing what we asked you to do. You're not giving us answers. They inadvertently spilled the beans on who got the grant money and basically what it was being used for. So now I feel I can tell you where the money went. It went to a group called Humanists International, which is a global nonprofit that works to support the rights of atheists around the world. They support like atheists who are accused of violating blasphemy laws and things like that. And these Republicans outed that organization. And maybe the name of the organization is not a secret, but here's why this is a big deal. The Republicans admitted Humanists International got some amount of money to help atheists in Sri Lanka and Nepal. And the reason they should not be saying that out loud is you think about those are two countries where it's very dangerous to be an open atheist. And if they are helping atheists in those countries, the last thing you want to do is out any of these people or say, yeah, there's an organization helping atheists in Nepal. And maybe, for example, they're holding meetings and discussing this stuff. Because what do you think the government officials in those countries are going to do if they know this is happening under their watch? They might target those individuals. That's why you don't talk about this shit until it's over. Then, of course, you make this stuff public and say, this is where the money went. This is how it was used. It wasn't like some CIA operation. It's just, no, you keep things classified because people might be in danger if this information gets out. And then afterwards, you could talk about it. And these Republicans are like blabbing it to the world. And that made me mad. That's why I talked about this last year in April. And the reason I'm rehashing all of this and I'm bringing all this up now is that this week, those same Republicans wrote a different letter because it turns out they didn't get the attention they wanted a year ago and they're still pissed off. And this week, look at this, May 22nd, McCall Smith Mast press Biden administration on recanted statements on atheism grants, urge concrete actions. I'll try to summarize what they said. They said, we held hearings on this stuff. We accused the State Department of saying you're misusing the money. And the State Department said they were not. But we have proof you're lying to us, which is a wild accusation that demands some proof. But let me start by showing you, first of all, I'm going to show you a clip right here. And the clip I'm going to show you is the Deputy Secretary of State, Richard Verma. He went to one of those subcommittee hearings to answer questions about this. And they basically said, are you lying to us about this grant? Is this grant being used to promote atheism? And what Verma is going to say is, what the hell are you talking about? No, that's absolutely not what we're doing. Let me play that clip for you.
Mr. Chairman, I've actually looked at this. I've looked at the grant. I've looked at the materials. That's not what the grant is for, and that's not what the work would be for. And frankly, we would never authorize such a grant to any organization to promote any kind of religion. As the ranking member discussed, this was actually to fulfill a requirement that this committee put forward to defend people who are being persecuted for their beliefs. Governments across the world, as you know, are cracking down, can torture people, lock people up for their religious beliefs.
So you're saying today that no $500,000 grant for atheism in Nepal or divided up in other areas?
I have seen no evidence of any grant to promote atheism in Nepal.
And all of that is legitimate. They are not promoting atheism. The other thing that is important is that the Republicans say the State Department sent us the training materials that Humanist International was using with these people they were trying to help. But when we, Republicans, were trying to get information, the lawyer for the Humanist International group sent us their training slides. And guess what? Those two did not match up. So you're hiding something from us. And the implication there is you said you were training them with this material, but they were actually using this material. So we have proof you're promoting atheism. At this point, you would say, okay, well, show us what the discrepancy is. Because I've worked on projects where version 1.0 is very different from version 2.0. And it's small typos that are changed. Or maybe a slide is modified or something. The whole project does not change. And guess what? The Republicans did not point out anything that was changed in the slides. They didn't show pictures of the slides. They didn't say anything that was altered in them. All they say is the slides you gave us are different from the slides they used. And that, and only that, is apparently proof that they're being lied to and stonewalled and you're using money to promote atheism. Like, if you're going to make that accusation, you got to show us what you're doing. And these Republicans, again, are not showing any of the evidence because my hunch is they don't have any. They looked at the slides and maybe they said, how to discuss atheism with other people in a safe way. That's a thing you would want to help people do if they're being persecuted. But if you want to take that out of context, you could say that's spreading atheism. Again, without context, without the actual documentation, you cannot make any of these accusations in any sort of fair way. And these Republicans are making these accusations. They got a lot of headlines. They got the headlines that they wanted. And I know that because I was looking at them this week. It was very annoying. These are from some right-wing websites right here. Here's one headline I saw this week. State Department says atheism grant may have been misused. Of course, they got the words atheism grant as if that's what the State Department handed out. That's not true. That's not what's going on. This is from the New York Post. State Department, I'm going to remove myself here. State Department accused of using taxpayer money to promote atheism. Yeah, but you can accuse anybody of anything. Doesn't mean that's what was happening. But again, the Republicans got the headlines they wanted in right-wing media because right-wing media doesn't call out the bullshit. That's what upsets me about this story. If there's evidence that they are promoting atheism illegally, I would like to know about it because I don't think the State Department should be doing that, but I have not seen that evidence. For what it's worth, American Atheists put out a statement after hearing about this, after I first posted about this. And this is what Nick Fish of American Atheists wrote at the top here. The committee's politically motivated attacks minimize these threats against atheists and put the lives of non-religious people, including those who participated in the program, at risk. For years, the State Department grants have helped protect a variety of religious groups from this kind of persecution abroad. ... We are proud to support programs that promote democracy, pluralism, and universal respect for freedom of religion or belief, and ensure that protecting those values remains a core objective of American foreign policy. And later on, they say, the fact that none of these grants drew the ire of the committee makes it clear that their selective outrage about purported Establishment Clause violations is entirely about their animus toward atheists and humanists and a desire to attack the Biden administration, and not any genuine concern about the work of Humanists International or fealty to the Constitution. Religious freedom is a universal human right. It is not, as these Republicans seem to think, a cudgel to be wielded against disfavored groups for political gain. All of that is absolutely right. These guys are trying to get attention by trying to link to unpopular things in the minds of their base voters, and they don't have evidence that anything bad is happening. They're just trying to cherry pick anything they can, blow it out of proportion, and in the process of doing so, they are actually putting the lives of atheists at risk. It is dangerous. By the way, there are some right-wing atheist groups out there. They will say absolutely nothing about this. They have been absolutely silent, even though this story is right up their alley. Ugh. I'll go to questions. I think I had one more story after this or something. Sometimes wonder if Republicans will target atheists soon. Not yet. I mean, I share your concern because it's kind of like Republicans targeting African Americans. Like, they are so low in terms of popularity. Most Black Americans do not like Republicans. That really, if you're a Republican, you can only go up in popularity. And I wonder if the same thing is going to happen with atheists. Right now, I feel like they would not target atheists. They could target people who are non-religious by saying, we respect the Constitution. But when all the loudest voices in your party are Christian nationalists, and the Speaker of the House is a Christian nationalist who monitors his son's adult porn viewing, and Donald Trump pretends to be Christian, like, these people are not interested in pandering to anyone outside the bubble. So I'm not worried about it yet. Right now, they're still working on going after the Christian crowd and the conspiracy theory crowd and the Venn diagram of that crowd. Like, they're not working on atheists yet because they still haven't solidified the loony, crazy wackadoodle base yet. There's been way too many state level officials playing with international political matters the past few years. That's not where their job. Thanks for sharing this. I appreciate that. And I agree with you. Like, these Congress people are just trying to get their names in the news, and they're trying to show something bad is happening when really it's the opposite. Our government right now, for all the problems with the Biden administration and government in general, the State Department grants to promote democracy and religious freedom worldwide, even if it's benefiting Muslims or Buddhists in other countries, like, those are good things. We should want our country to support people who are being persecuted for their religious freedom. You know what I mean? That's a good thing. And Republicans should be supporting that. And in this case, they realize we can make it a political weapon, so let's go after it. And my fear now is, let's say all of this blows over, they don't get any more attention. What's going to happen in the future? Do you think the State Department's going to do any more grants for atheists, for humanists in dangerous countries? I don't think so. Do you think humanist groups are going to apply for those grants? Probably not. Like, and that's what this is all about. Like, even if nothing comes of this, the headlines will spook people from ever doing something like this again. And then the Republicans win. Seems like Republicans spend a lot of time criticizing people trying to help others, but they do nothing to improve their country. Yeah, I mean, that's the Republican Party for you. They whine about everything. They actually don't do anything to help. And they have a whole media universe out there designed to amplify their BS. And it's frustrating, and I hope people see through it. My fear is most people don't pay any attention. When I was meeting with those preachers this morning, one of the things I asked them is, where do you guys get your news from? I'm curious what their media diet is. And their answer was like social media, Twitter, TikTok. It's like, that's not news. And when you factor in the algorithms, like, you're really just being fed what you want to hear because the algorithms know you like that stuff. So you're not getting news. And it's not just those guys, though. Like, that's a lot of Americans who get their news from TikTok or social media or Facebook. And I don't know that they realize you're not getting news. You're just being told exactly what you like and want to hear because the sites and apps know what you like and want to hear. Thank you. Yeah, sign up at friendlyatheist.com. I would appreciate that. I mentioned this earlier. I'm going to do this story. It's a quick one. I got two quick ones for you, and then I'll call it a day. I mentioned this earlier, but there is a man in Minnesota who is trying to get a local school district to put up a Ten Commandments monument outside the school district. And a couple of things about this, because it's kind of funny. Because obviously it's illegal. The guy's name is Dennis Dodge, and he was doing this to the Park Rapids School Board in Minnesota. And basically he says, by fall of next year, he's going to make it, or he's going to hire out whoever's going to make this monument. And it's the Ten Commandments, and he wants to put it in front of the school. And he made a pitch to the school board earlier this week. And he knows this school board because for 32 years, he sat on this school board, which is scary to think about. And he only stepped down or lost an election in 2022. So now he's going back and saying, hey, buddies who I worked with for a long time, I want this up there. Can you put up this monument? And of course, I looked for a video of the school board meeting, and for some reason, I could not find any copy of it. I didn't realize they were allowed to not post that stuff. But according to a local news article about this, Dodge argued that current society is in a war between good and evil, and Satan seems to be winning because we're allowing him to, by allowing God to be pushed out of government, churches, homes, and schools. And then he said, and I quote, I'm going to show you this so you could see it for yourself. The actual article is paywalled, but I will show you this little bit here. Where did it go? Here we go. Our society has lost its moral compass, its values, and its respect for each other, he said, adding that if we can save even one child from Satan's grapes, it is worth every cent we spend on this donation because God's children are priceless. I have never heard the phrase Satan's grapes. All day long, people were telling me that's a great name for a band. That's what they're now going to call their testicles. There are many uses of that phrase, but I've never heard it in this context. But so this guy, Dennis Dodge, he makes this presentation. I think he knew there might be legal problems with it because he tried to acknowledge that in his speech to the school board and try to say, like, it's fine, you guys. Just to give you a reminder, the Supreme Court in like 2005 said a courthouse in Kentucky cannot have a standalone Ten Commandments monument outside the courthouse. That's clearly a promotion of religion. Not okay. The Supreme Court also said the Texas legislature can have a Ten Commandments monument outside the building because there are like a dozen monuments to like the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights or something like that. So as long as it's part of a bunch of historical items, then the Ten Commandments might be permissible. That's okay. Also, in 1980, the Supreme Court said that a law requiring schools to post a copy of the Ten Commandments in classrooms by itself, that's illegal because it doesn't have any secular purpose. And when I was talking about a Ten Commandments law in Louisiana earlier, that's what the Louisiana Senate is now trying to fix. They're saying, we can't just put the Ten Commandments up by itself. Let's put a little disclaimer that says, you guys, it's historical, and maybe that'll do it. And that's not enough. That's not how you fix it. But what Dodge said during his presentation is that all those Supreme Court precedents don't apply to his monument because he said the Supreme Court permits the Ten Commandments to be on public property so long as the goal of displaying them is not to gain support for religion, which is a weird thing to say because so he's saying, I'm not putting it up here to win converts. I'm putting it up because kids just need to know who God is. Like, buddy, it's the same thing. What are you talking about? Of course you're putting it up to win converts. Like, you can't say, I don't care if they convert to Christianity. I just want them to know what God says. It's the same damn thing. But the funniest thing about all this is that this guy had a picture of the blueprint of what his monument would look like. And I have to show it to you because it is the funniest damn thing I've ever seen. Here you go. This is his design, God's 10 Commandments. Shall we zoom in here? Ah, yes. You shall have no other gods before me. That's commandment number 1. Commandment number 2 is gone. Doesn't matter. That would be the one about not worshiping false idols. I guess that's okay now. You can do that. So that's bizarre. I don't know what's going on there. There's also, you know what else is missing on there? Don't bear false witness against your neighbors. The commandment that basically says don't lie. That's missing from the list too. Where is that one? Or is lying okay now? Because of all the commandments, you would want to strike off the list because you don't need them. The one that says no lying is kind of one of the ones you would keep. So I don't know. Maybe this guy should learn how to count. That might be a good idea. Now, the Freedom from Religion Foundation has also sent a letter to this school district basically saying, what the hell are you people doing? And one of their attorneys, Hirsch Joshi, is urging the school board, don't put this up. It's totally illegal. You're going to get sued. Annie Laurie Gaylor, the co-president of FFRF, said, the Park Rapids area schools has no business telling students which gods to have, how many gods to have, or whether to have any gods at all. And the letter, Joshi also says, the monument sends the message that school children don't need to learn how to count. Well played. That's great. I love that they're bringing it up. In case you're wondering, the school board itself did not vote on this issue yet. The board chair said she needed some time to think about this. She said, I know how I feel, but I'm only one person. So she wants more information from people in the community. Like, that's a weird answer, and I know he's your buddy. But like, no, the right answer is to say, buddy, we're not putting this up. Bye. Thanks for making your presentation, but we're not doing it. And the chair right now is saying, let us think about it and we'll get back to you. Like, why are you giving the man hope? Don't do that. The kids need a decent education in this district. They don't need the commandments. They need to learn, what the Constitution says. They need to learn how to count. Basic math is good. They do not need the list of 9 commandments. They don't need a set of archaic rules about not obeying the Christian God or not working on the Sabbath or not sleeping with the neighbor's wife or whatever these people want kindergartners to learn. It's not worth their time. It's illegal. The school district is in for a world of trouble if they do it, because they will face a lawsuit. They will lose the lawsuit. They will be out a lot of money. It's not worth it. Tell the dude to put up the 9 commandments in his own backyard. That's it for that one. We're almost done. One more story. I'll take questions. Is he gonna pay for school supplies with all that money first? That's a wonderful question. And I don't think he answered that question. So I'll go ahead and answer it for him. No, of course he's not. He's not going to pay for school supplies or school lunches or anything. No, he's just buying this monument because it's what the kids need. I'm drinking Satan's grapes right now. I hope you're talking about wine, because I don't know what the other options are anymore. Possibly typo for grasp. If it was Satan's grasp, if they were trying to protect people from Satan's grasp, that would make more sense. But I will tell you, this is where it was annoying, because I was looking for the video. I wanted to see the guy's presentation, because I'm sure he said, like, the things that were transcribed in the local newspaper article, there were other errors in there, but I could not figure out what Satan's grapes was trying to say. Thank you. You may have cleared up, but I'm not going to go with it. I'm still going to believe it's Satan's grapes because it's too great to let go. Have you been following Indian and Iranian politics? A little bit. I'm by no means an expert. India is becoming a very Hindu nationalist country, and that's very scary right now. Not just for religious minorities and atheists and stuff, but it's just bad for the country under Modi. And with Iran, that Iranian president died in the helicopter crash. That guy was horrible. Like, no love for that guy. He was awful. I think my open question is, who's going to replace him? Because I don't know if it's going to get any better, or they're just going to hire someone worse. It seems like a lot of times you get rid of one person who you're not a fan of, and the replacement turns out to be so much worse. It's like I saw this earlier, so it's on my mind. George W. Bush, for the Supreme Court, when he was nominating people, he nominated his own personal lawyer, Harriet Miers. And people were so mad that he was hiring someone who clearly had no experience working in like the federal court system, that he basically withdrew her nomination and then subbed back into her place Sam Alito. That's why we have that guy. And it's like, maybe we should have gone with option one, because it could always get worse. It's a great thing to do. Thank you so much. All right, one last story. This one's going to be quick, but on the upside, it's actually some good news in a sense. The Scottish census results from 2022 just came out, and they were interesting to watch. And the reason I was curious to see what the headlines were going to be is because in 2011, the last time they did the census in Scotland, we knew that the no religion group was on the rise. They had gone from like 28% of the country to about 37% of the country in 2011. So the question is, what's going to happen 10 years later? And in that 10 years, we also learned that more than half of all marriages in Scotland, 52%, are done through civil ceremonies and not religious ones. Like, more than half of the people in Scotland have like a local court official, a judge or a friend or whatever, do their wedding ceremonies, and not a priest. It's like more people are getting used to a world without religion. You know what I mean? So what is happening now? And this is the headline that started to come out here. Most Scots have no religion. And check this out. When you look at the numbers from 2001 to 2011 to 2022, no religion has jumped up. Look at that red. Look at that red. In 2011, it was, like I said, 37%. It is now above the halfway mark. It is at 52% now. No religion. And that number is coming at the expense of Christianity. I'm sorry, I said 52. It's 51. 51% of people in Scotland have no religious affiliation. And what they said is, where are those numbers coming from? Because a rise in the non-religious has to be coming from a drop somewhere else, right? So where's that drop coming from? The drop is coming from the Church of Scotland. They went from 32% 10 years ago to 20% now, which is wild. Here's another thing I can show you as well. This is an interesting graph right here. You could see, look at the green lines at the bottom. You could see in no religion, blue is where it used to be, green is where it is now. Church of Scotland, blue is where it used to be, green is where it is now. So, like, we are winning at the expense of the Church of Scotland, which is fabulous. So, very interesting numbers. Not only did no religion rise in Scotland, it rose throughout every part of Scotland, save 2 areas. Like 30 of their 32 council areas saw a rise in non-religious people. Other interesting points. Men and women are basically balanced in the no religion crowd. It's like 53% men, 47% women. Every single age demographic, every group, age group saw a rise in the nuns. In fact, if you're looking at people under the age of 24, check this out right here. Under the age of 24, which is the 2 groups on the left, look at the green bars from ages 0 to 15 and 16 to 24. The green bars are now above 60%. Nearly 2/3 of people under 24, under 25, I should say, are non-religious. And the fact that these numbers are growing in every demographic means we are not talking about like old religious people dying off and getting replaced by young people who are non-religious. It's just growing everywhere. That's fascinating. I don't think we see that at that level in the United States. So that's interesting. And the other thing is there's a couple of caveats here. One is that this question was optional. And like 6% of the people who responded to the census did not respond to this question. And I would argue it's possible that some people who secretly are no longer religious don't want to say that out loud, so, or even to an anonymous survey, so they didn't say it. So I think they're undercounting the non-religious. And there's also another reason I think they're undercounting the non-religious. It's because the question that was asked in the census assumed they have a religion. Here's the question that people were asked. What religion, religious denomination, or body do you belong to? That assumes they have a religion. So if you were raised in the Church of Scotland, even if you're not a believer anymore, you might say, oh yeah, I'm still part of that group. If you want an accurate answer, what they should do is to say, are you religious? Or do you have a religious affiliation? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then have there be a follow-up question. Which religious label do you use? And give them options or something. At least then, if, are you religious? And if people said no, you use that number. They didn't do that. They said, which religion are you a part of, basically? And that inflates the numbers because a lot of people are just saying, this is the religion I grew up with. This is what my parents believe in. This is the religion in which I was baptized. So for those reasons, I think this 51% of Scottish people who are non-religious, I think that is an underestimate, and more people are actually non-religious. A couple of groups responded to these statements. Humanist UK, for example, they put out this statement here that I found interesting. Like, what's the big picture here? What matters? The growth of the non-religious population is the biggest demographic change in the UK today, and yet the UK remains a very religious state, including in its institutions that every country is subjected to. We still have daily prayers in the UK Parliament, with those who attend more able to get seats and participate in subsequent debates. We still have bishops in the House of Lords. We still have compulsory school prayers. We still have schools that divide children based on religion. And this is a fair point. When every single survey shows more and more people are non-religious, why does religion get such privilege throughout the United Kingdom? In very important ways, too. They shouldn't, but they do. And if the numbers are going this way, the traditions need to be ditched at some point. So that's one important thing that is worth mentioning. One last thing here from the Humanist Society of Scotland. Let me X out of that right there. Fraser Sutherland, the chief executive of the Humanist Society of Scotland, said the data bolstered the argument that churches should no longer be allowed to sit on council education committees and that state schools should no longer promote religious observance. When the current census survey was sent around in 2022, we encouraged respondents to be honest about their beliefs if they were non-religious. The results bear out the fact that more people feel confident and open about expressing an atheist, secular, or agnostic worldview than ever before. So it's true. And again, I think it's undercounted. I'll be very curious to see if that changes in the future. The funniest thing I saw out of all of this came from a representative of the Church of Scotland who was trying to spin this news. And look at what he said here. The Reverend David Cameron from the Church of Scotland said the decline in membership numbers has been identified as an area of considerable concern by the church. Fair. He said, it is sobering. And we know that when the church is measured in this way, it can feel hurtful for our members and be a source of anxiety for many. Like, calm down, buddy. This is your fault, not anyone else's. It's hurtful. It's numbers. It's data. Get over it. But our faith and our relevancy cannot be expressed as simply a set of numbers in a table. Actually, no, your relevancy can very much be explained by those numbers because you're losing relevancy. Because I promise you, if the numbers were going in the other direction and more people were joining the Church of Scotland, this guy would be like, see, we're relevant. Keep us everywhere. The numbers show we matter. And the numbers are going the other way now. So he's like, stop looking at them. They hurt my fifis. Like, have fun in the last, death rattles of your final bits here. It's not like politicians are any better, by the way. In 2011, Prime Minister David Cameron said during a speech, we are a Christian country and we should not be afraid to say so. And he was criticized for that back then because he was wrong, but he's really wrong now. So when the UK, Scotland, England, Wales, when they're all heading in the same direction, it is way beyond time to stop pretending the UK is Christian in any meaningful way. I'm going to stop there. I'll take any last questions. Otherwise, I think I'm done for tonight. A chart making me smile was not on my list today. Welcome to my world as a math person. Charts are awesome. You know what's super amazing? Spreadsheets. Oh, thank you for that donation. Thank you, Den. Thank you, fellow commenters. I agree. It's such a nice community we have here on these nights. I really enjoy it. What if Jesus was really a time traveler using future tools? I don't even know what this is in reference to, but I'm going to give this some serious thought and get back to you. Cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you so much, Den, for helping out as you do every week. I really appreciate it. To all of you, sign up for the newsletter. That is free. You get my articles every week. I should be back next Friday night as usual. Have a good long weekend and stay safe. I'll talk to you all soon.